Hello, welcome to today's section. Today we are going to talk about something on research problem and purpose, and especially focus on sources of research problems. You may ask, when we think about research problems, where we can find out these problems? So usually the sources of research problems can come from all these resources. The first one, you may think about the clinical practice, and then think about talk with other researchers and peers, and also write the literature, and you learn from the series and you test the series, and then maybe you can look at some research priorities posted by funding agencies and specialty groups. So I will go through in detail. And first, let's talk about clinical practice. I would say it's extremely important for nursing researcher to find out the research problems, because our research is helping the care to be better. So we can use the observation and we can look at the documents. You may find some problems may need to be studied. For example, as a nurse, when you have a family, they just got a family member newly diagnosed as dementia. So you may think about how to help them to improve their coping skills, because dementia is totally different from other chronic illness. So how you teach family members to cope with this situation is really, really important. So you may think about some new way to help family members to cope. And maybe you think about when you have the acute or chronic pain patients and it's really suffering, you may think about what's the most effective treatment for acute and chronic pain. And also, you may think about when you look at the documents, you see so many adolescent obesity patients. So you may ask yourself, why has adolescent obesity increased so rapidly in the past 10 years? Any relationship with lifestyles or working stressors? So all this way you can ask your question from the clinical practice. The second source is talk with researcher and peers. When you talk with others, you may have some brainstorming. And you talk with the expert researcher, they may give you some advice, and they can also supervise clinical nurse to do research. And also, you may discuss your research ideas with others at workplace, or others at nursing conference, or maybe when you attend professional meetings, you can discuss your idea with somebody, and they may give you some ideas, so you may find your research problem. And then another way is literature review. When you read the literature, review the literature, so enable you to identify an area of interest and determine what is known and not known in this area. So the gaps in this knowledge base provide direction for future research. So it's really, really important to read a lot of literatures. I will give you a tip. When you read the literature, and you may pay more attention on the part of recommendation, or maybe part of the conclusion, or maybe part of the discussion. In these sessions, you may see some sentence will tell something about the future research. So let me give you an example. This is the research our group done in 2012. So from this research, the topic of my research is family caregiving of older Chinese people with dementia, and we were going to test a model. And from this model, you can tell the behavioral problems and perceived social support, they are very important factors. They influence caregiver psychological health a lot. So in our discussion, we wrote down like this. Please pay more attention. So we wrote down like behavioral problems of care recipients and perceived social support by caregivers are two very important independent variables that have several paths of influence with other variables in the model. So we say, thus, future intervention programs should target caregivers, such as establish accessible and affordable social support resources for caregivers in communities, as well as care recipients, especially to decrease the frequency of behavioral problems. So from this part, you may tell, in the future study, you may design some interventions, increase the accessible and affordable social support, or you may help the caregivers to cope, to decrease the frequency of behavioral problems. All the intervention you may try to see if it can reduce caregiver burden. So another source for research problem is theories. So theory usually set forth ideas about events and situations in the real world that require testing. And the research problem and purpose could be formulated to explore or describe a concept or to test a proposition from a theory. And in qualitative research, remember, the purpose of the study might be to generate a theory or framework to describe a unique event or situation. So from the theories, when you learn some theories, when you learn some propositions in the theories, you may think about, maybe I should try to test the theory in the real clinical practice. So that's why the research problem comes. And another way to find out the research problem is research priorities. So you need to identify, to pay more attention about all these priorities. Usually it can be found by the funding agency website or some professional nursing organizations. So I would say you must be familiar with all these websites, which is really related to your career and to your area, and keep yourself posted. So I gave you two websites. It's really popular. One is from the United States. It's the National Institute of Nursing Research. And I will give you an example about this. And WHO website is also informative. And from this NIAR website, you will see they state nursing research developed knowledge to do something. And they highlight spotlights on nursing research. So these are several parts, several directions you may think about, work on. It's really hot spot for nursing research. The first one is end-of-life and palliative care research. And second one is symptom science and nursing research. And third one is advancing nursing research through data science. And then genomic science and women's health and nursing science. So all these 5 parts is kind of hot spot for the nursing research and kind of, hot topic for nursing research. You may find out some topic you are interested in. So let me summarize a little bit. And for this section, we talk about how you can get the research problems, where you can get the research problems. You may get some ideas from clinical practice, and you talk with research and peers, and you read literature review, and you also read theories and think about the theories, proposition under the theories, and also you pay more attention about the research priorities by funding agency and the specialty groups. So think about your research problems, and please, you can write down on the discussion board, and we are looking forward to see your thoughts and see your problems. So we will discuss it later. Thank you, and thank you for today. Thank you very much.